Hey YouTube, welcome to Oman, Muscat, or Muscat, Oman. You guys know how this works by now. First part, gay travel information. Second part, the things I like or don't like or what I recommend to see. Third part, if I have anything interesting to tell you guys. I do have a third part here. It's not really directly related to Muscat, but I think it's interesting, so I'm going to add it. And first of all, I'm pretty sure I'm saying Muscat right. Because at first I was calling it Muscat, which I think is how the Germans pronounce it. But a local guy told me it was Muscat. So I'm hoping that's correct. All right, first part. In terms of gay information, again, there's not that much to tell you guys. It's the Middle East. Being gay is either completely haram or at least extremely frowned upon, to where there's not going to be an active gay scene. There's no gay area per se. And so most of it all comes down to either cruising. The only cruising places that I could find is the mall. I don't know, for those of you guys who saw my Dubai review video, the Dubai mall was also very, very cruisy. I mean, gay men just love their fashion and stuff like that. Although I don't really see the point in cruising in a mall, because it's not like in a park. It kind of makes more sense to me, because you might find like some place where you could actually go and make out or do more, I guess. But in the mall, I'm like, and it's very difficult to approach somebody in the mall because there's so many other people around. And anyway, the Center Mall is known for cruising, and just kind of like a lot of the hotel lobbies. There's sometimes like bars in the hotels. Those are also kind of cruising grounds. I think a lot of that has to do with, because there's a lot of transit people, and often in the Middle East, the local gay people just feel more comfortable hooking up with somebody who's transit, because then it's kind of like, okay, now they're gone, and now I don't have to worry about somehow being exposed or whatever. But again, the majority of it's going to be online. I think worldwide, gay men have very much shifted to online. I think in the West, online meeting has become very popular, because even though the West is generally more liberal, it's just easier or more lazy. I know that if I'm gonna pursue meeting somebody, 9 out of 10 times it's gonna be me being online. For me personally, it's always because I am a lot of times too lazy to be like, I gotta get dressed up and go all the way downtown and go to the club. And there's gonna be pushing and shoving, and probably there's gonna be music I don't like, or I could just sit at home in front of the TV and turn on, Planet Romeo or whatever, and do some chatting that way. Oh, but the one thing, Oman it's also considered one of the Gulf Coast countries, which I didn't know. For some reason, in my head, I put Oman with like Yemen, and I thought maybe they would have something, but Oman considers itself part of the Gulf Coast countries, and compared to Qatar and the UAE, it's still a little bit more liberal. Like for online, you don't need a VPN app. I'm not computer smart or app smart or whatever. But in the UAE and Qatar, in both, you need like a VPN to be able to even get on like gay websites, and here you don't need that. I've also been told that here it's more just frowned upon, but it's not like in some of the other countries in this area where it's really, it's the end. So, yeah. I mean, I really don't. There's not really much to tell you guys here. Cruising and online. Online is probably going to be the easier option if you're looking to meet somebody. So, maybe I'll just make this a mini review. And and of course, anybody who has any additional information, always leave in the comments, because then it can maybe help somebody in the future. And for the second part, in terms of, okay, first of all, most of you guys are probably thinking like, what the hell is he even doing in Oman? This was a very, very short planned decision. For those of you guys who saw my video before I even started this set of trips, my plan originally was to go to India and spend 2.5 months to maybe even 3 months in India and really do this soul searching thing and spiritual thing, all this kind of stuff. And I just barely managed to do 7 weeks. So not even like a full, like just maybe a little bit over 7 weeks. Like I got close to 2 months, and that's as much as I could hack in India. It was just for me it was too much. So I basically had a month worth of finances that I hadn't spent, or all this kind of stuff, where I was kind of like, oh, I could still go somewhere. So I was actually kind of looking at places I could go between here and going back to Germany, and it was between Kuwait and Oman. Kuwait honestly would have interested in me more, but from Delhi there was a direct flight to Muscat, and there's not a direct flight, but only one layover back to Stuttgart from Muscat as well. And to get to Kuwait, it would have been like I've had like stopover twice from Delhi, and then stopover twice getting back to Stuttgart. And I was just kind of like, I was like, I'm not that interested in going to Kuwait. So yeah, it was a very impulse. I kind of was like, okay, well, let's see where I can go. Because of that, I will also say that I think I did Oman a disservice, because I really only got to see Muscat. And Muscat on itself, I would say, is not good, it's not bad, it's just kind of like, okay, like I don't have any strong feelings about it one way or the other. I'm not going to be like, oh my god, I hate it here, or oh my god, I love it here. I do have some, likes, dislikes, I'll talk about in a second. But overall, I think Oman would have been a place because it has a lot of beautiful nature. And I've seen like some of the pictures, and when I did some of the research, a lot of this is not a place where people come to see the wonder of the cities. This is a place where people come to really experience nature. Thing is, I don't really have the time, because I only gave myself 2 days. I actually technically have 3 days, because my flight today is very, very late. I guess you could almost count this as another day. And I also gave myself a budget, and to do any of the tours to go around for the nature would be very expensive, and I'm a little too exhausted at this point after about 3 months of everything together. After about 3 months of traveling, I'm a little too exhausted, plus I don't want to spend that money. So I think if you're really into nature and all this kind of stuff, I think Oman would be a really good choice for you. If you're like me, I'm generally a city traveler. I love nature, but nature is one of those things where nature travel is something I prefer doing with other people. It's nice, like, in the part where I grew up in Germany, the Black Forest is like right around my town. And yeah, I would go for like walks to clear my mind or whatever. But to really go into nature and like trekking and stuff like that, that is something I think I personally would not want to do by myself, because I think I would kind of get to the point where, you're like, in the city there's always something to look at or something to do or somewhere to go. So I feel like I wouldn't get caught up in going like, oh, I'm here all by myself, I'm lonely. But if no, anyway, totally blah blah blah. So overall, I would say if you're a city traveler like me, or predominantly a city traveler, I would say Muscat is not a place you have to come to. There's not that much to see. And the positives I have is It's very clean, and you guys know I love. It's very clean. It's pretty organized, and they actually have really cute small beaches, and they're empty. I mean, it's I would say predominantly it's because I was there during the middle of the day, and it really is extremely hot in countries like this. And I think most people they stay inside with the air conditioning on. So, but every beach that I saw was like empty. And if I had thought of that beforehand, I definitely would have liked to have brought my bathing shorts with me so I could like jumped in because I love swimming. So, and that's all what I have for positives. In terms of architecture or buildings, they have places that they recommend seeing, but none of them personally blew me away. The negative, and this is why I'm saying I could tell that this was a very short planned trip because I didn't do my research enough. It's relatively expensive. Not everything. Food is okay, but my hotel is pretty expensive considering it's nothing that special. Taxis are crazy expensive. Crazy expensive. Like this is okay, here's an insider tip. If you do decide to come to Oman, this is one country where I definitely recommend you get a rental car. Personally, the last time I got a rental car on one of my trips was in Ireland, because Ireland was a country that really, really, really interested me. And there was so much I wanted to see, and everything was really far apart, and it would have been almost impossible to do that with tours or whatever, so I rented a car. But that experience was such a horror experience for me, because they gave me this huge car, and, it's on the, the steering wheel is on the right side instead of on the left side. And, this huge car, and the streets are really small, and it was just like, for me, it was like a horror experience having a rental car. So I'm generally, but here, considering how expensive taxis are, I would say definitely consider getting a rental car here, because it's ridiculous. And same with the tours. The tours start all at like $200 for like a 1-day tour, which for me is a little bit steep, a little bit more than I would want to spend. Also, something that's personally very confusing to me is that I've gotten used to Oman is the very first country I've ever been to where their currency is stronger. Or I don't know if it's stronger, but I don't know how the rules of currency work. But it's, in every other country I've been to, €1 would be equal to like 30 reals or 100 rupees or 20 yen or whatever. So it was always like this way of converting to going, if something's like, oh, okay, something costs 300 rupees, okay, it's not that expensive. But here it's the other way around. Like I think €1 is 0.3 or 0.4 Omani real. So I have to like convert in the other direction, which for some reason is not as easy for me. Maybe because I'm just not used to it. And I also got to tell you guys, this is something I personally find very interesting. So I had this theory that actually, up to coming here, has always proved right. Like, it's just a personal theory I have. I'm not saying this is like the truth or anything, but it's just something I personally have noticed. And that is, if you're ever, like, say somebody randomly dropped you off in some country and you didn't know where you were, one way to know if this is a rich country or a poor country is always by what the taxi drivers are. So this is a theory that up to coming to Oman has always worked for me. A rich country, usually the taxis will be driven by somebody who is a foreigner. And in poor countries, the taxi drivers are local people. Well, Oman is actually a relatively rich country, but the taxi drivers are predominantly Omani people. So that also kind of threw this theory that I had out. So now I'm kind of confused because I'm like, okay, this is a pretty rich country, but the taxi drivers, and they do actually have a lot of expats. So I'm kind of going, because taxi driver is usually one of the first jobs that local people stop doing as soon as wealth comes into the country. So I'm kind of confused if this is a wealthy country or not, and yeah. Is there anything else related to Leaders? Yeah. I mean, I think Oman is maybe a good starter to the Middle East. It's a country that you don't really hear a lot of negative stuff about. I think a lot of the countries in the Middle East have a lot of, you've heard about terrorism acts there, or jihad, or war, or something like that. And Oman is generally, it's never in the news. There's never you don't hear anything bad going. So I think if you're interested in the Middle East, I think this might be a good starting point just to kind of get a little bit identified with the culture. I also have to say, I think the Arab people I've met in Oman, I've found much more pleasant. Like I said, the Emiratis were, I mean, the UAE is just not for me at all. Like, I didn't enjoy that place at all. It was just so, we have money. Look at this Rolex. Look at the Lamborghini I'm driving. Look at how much money I have. Blah, blah, blah. You know, it was so like, ugh, we're so much better than you because we have money. And I didn't really get to meet a lot of Qatari people, but I heard that that's also kind of the attitude there. And the Omani people are not like that. Like, they're really nice and they're friendly and they're humble, and it's not like all about bragging about wealth and all this kind of stuff. So, like I said, I think this would be a good starter point for traveling in the Middle East if the Middle East interests you at all. In terms of the third part, and I said this really is not really a Muscat related thing, but I did have an epiphany here. It was not yesterday, but the day before. I was at one of those beaches, and like I said, it was completely empty. And it was one of the first times where I really had time to just kind of meditate a little bit and think and say a little thank you prayer. And, you know, the whole time I was in India, I was constantly waiting for some kind of spiritual enlightenment, something to tell me like, okay, you know. And then I was sitting at this beach, and I was all by myself, and I was just kind of like thinking, and it kind of came to me. I was like, you know what? I have it within me to be happy. So one of the things I've been struggling with for a very long time is that I'm not happy, and I'm constantly, there's something really weird about my personality where no matter how the wind blows, maybe I am somebody who's just a pessimist by nature, and any way the wind blows, I always find a way to kind of, you know, I'll say something like, oh, I really hope I get an A on this test, and then I get an A on the test, and then I'll be like, oh, but now maybe this has put too much pressure on me, now I'm gonna really want an A on, you know what I mean? That's just kind of my nature, which is a really shitty personality trait. I'll be the first to admit that. So I was at the beach, and I was thinking, I was kind of like, you know what, I have everything I need to be happy, and everything I've ever said I wanted has been actually at some point in time provided to me to be happy, and it's been my own fault that I haven't accepted these things. So the epiphany was that from now on I want to be more aware of the fact that blessings, I'm definitely already aware that my life is incredibly blessed, but to be even more open to the blessings that come to me and to not shun them so quickly and not right away think that there's something negative attached to it. Hey everyone, coming today to you from, I call it Muscat, but I don't think the emphasis is on the A. I actually think it's Muscat. And that is the main mosque here. Sultan Al Qus. I forgot the name of it, sorry. And we're about to go into it, if they let me. You never know. Some Muslim countries are very liberal about letting non-Muslims into mosques, and some they're not so open-minded. So we'll find out. This side is Old Town. Is that when we go? Is that the old city?